Hey guys, and welcome to Fan Friday. Yeah, it's back. Last Friday, I released a video announcing that Fan Friday was back, and I asked you guys a question to start this series off again. So that question was, what makes a good captain in the NHL? What reasons or traits does a captain need to have to be successful in the NHL, regardless of what team, whether it's Edmonton or Montreal, Pittsburgh, Chicago, whatever? Just in general, what makes a good captain? And you guys left some amazing comments. There were, I think, roughly 80 comments on the video, and they were all really, really good. I chose 15 to read, and maybe next week I'll do a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the length of your answers to my next question, or to my next Fan Friday question, which I will ask at the end of this video. But before I do that, let's get into your answers to the question, what makes a good captain? Let's start out with the first one I chose by Wolf XP. All right, here we go. He or she says, a captain for me, involved in their community, someone who is respected in the locker room, someone who leads by example, a player who is a team first guy, and good talking with the refs. I would say the majority of the comments spoke about being a good leader, but there were very few that made the point of communicating with the refs. We think of captains so much as talking to the players and dealing with the players on the other team and leading by example that way and standing up and stuff. But not a lot of people actually said communicating with the refs. So I really thought that was a good addition to the comment at the end, because when something goes down on the ice, whether it's a penalty, a goal's called back, whatever, it's the captain's responsibility to go up and have a conversation with the referee along with the captain on the other side, on the other team. So a captain needs to know how to talk to the referees appropriately and without too much emotion, because he can't take a penalty. He can't be the reason that the team goes down because he got a misconduct or something. He needs a level head. So being able to talk to the refs, man, it's got to be on that list. So good comment. Okay, the next one by Steven. A respected member of the organization, a leader on and off the ice, a voice on the bench and in the dressing room, a decent point producer, but a smart play creator can be considered. I really like this comment because of a specific word that Steven used, voice. A voice on the bench and in the dressing room. A lot of guys talk on the bench. And that's kind of what it is. It's a lot of talking. There's some chirping, but I think there's a difference between talking and being a voice. When you're someone who maybe doesn't speak that often, but when you do, you listen. I feel like Jason is kind of like that. You've seen on this channel and on the podcast every Sunday now. Jason doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, he's so insightful that you listen. He's very well spoken. So I think a captain needs to be extremely well spoken, and he needs to have that voice that commands respect. When you hear that voice, it's automatically respected. So I really like this comment, Steven. Epic Hunter said, someone who would stick up for anyone on the team, has heart and the mindset to be the best team no matter where they are in the standings. And that's the thing, right? There are 16 teams that make the playoffs and currently 15 that do not, soon to be 16 once Seattle joins, 16 in, 16 out. So if you're a captain on one of those teams, one of those 16 teams on the outside, maybe at the bottom of that list of 16 teams, you know that you're not making the playoffs sometimes, but you still have to pretend or act like you have a chance, or like, because what's the sense of giving up halfway through the season and just kind of, I don't know, going through the season gauntlet of just trying to get the games over with? What if St. Louis did that last year? They didn't. They didn't give up halfway through the season, and when they're a team that's down that far in the standings, the captain and the rest of the team had faith that the team would come back and get into the playoffs. They not only did that, they won the Stanley Cup. So that's a really good comment by this person to not, what do you say specifically, and has the mindset to be the best team no matter where they are in the standings. Very good comment. R.R. Lewis says, an ideal captain can effectively relay the coach's message to the teammates. It's equally important that the captain be able to represent the players' feelings back to the coach. A great captain is having another coach on the ice. Calgary's Mark Giordano has been the quintessential example for 7 seasons now. His effort level... Oh, I accidentally cut off the rest of that comment. I apologize, R. Lewis, but the reason that I did screenshot this was because what you said at the beginning. I thought it was incredibly important. An ideal captain can effectively relay the coach's message to his teammates. It's equally important that the captain is able to represent the players' feelings back to the coach. So he's that middleman. He's the Switzerland of the situation. He has to receive the coach's message, whether he's there with all his teammates or it's a one-on-one conversation between the coach and the captain. He has to take that message and redistribute it to the rest of the team, and not only redistribute it, but make sure that everyone is on board. And on the other side of the coin, he has to get the feedback from the players on certain situations, maybe about certain plays, maybe it's an issue about another person on the team, maybe a defenseman like PK Subban, when he played for Montreal, I think got in a fight with Pacioretty or someone during a practice. The captain comes in that situation, has a conversation, and then has a conversation with the coach. So he has to relay the feedback from the players to the coach. The captain has to be so level-headed, and this has to do with the refereeing as well. He has to be so level-headed that he can't be too emotionally invested in one side or the other. Can't be too emotionally invested in the coach, can't be too emotionally invested in the players. He has to be that kind of middle ground force. So I love this comment. Very well written. Next, Jay says, a good captain is whatever Jamie Benn is. Yeah, I agree. Blue Gaming says, I don't think by points. I would say someone who leads and creates plays and plays a 200-foot game. There are definitely some captains in the NHL who do not play a 200-foot game. I think Alexander Ovechkin can be guilty of that the majority of his career. So good comment there. You need to be able to play not only in the offensive end, not only in the neutral zone, but in your own end as well. And behind the net, 200 feet, board to board, end to end. You got to be that guy who plays 100% every area of the ice. Got to lead by example. Hockeyball73M says, Captain, a leader that pumps up and motivates the team when they go down by a goal and keeps momentum up when they're up by a goal. Exactly. Very well said. When you go down by a goal, I wouldn't say nervousness creeps in, but frustration starts to creep in a little bit. You start to kind of second guess some of your decisions that you made earlier in the game. So you want that captain there to reassure you regardless of your worries. And on the other side, if you get up by a goal, you can't get too cocky. You can't get too confident. You can't think that the other team isn't just going to come back and score a goal 8 seconds later or 2 minutes later or 10 minutes later. You need to have the awareness that we can't just sit on this one goal lead. Like, you need to protect it. You need to be smart about it. You can't get too cocky, and that's what this is all about. So yeah, good comment. Bill Katz says, a good captain in the NHL is someone who will do a few things exceptionally well. These include the following. Number 1, put the rest of the team's needs above your own. I think that's really important. Number 2, help the younger players develop their skills. Excellent point. That's one of the reasons why most of the time captains are older and veterans, more experienced guys, so they can teach the younger guys some very important lessons as they enter the NHL. Number 3, score some points. Absolutely. Whether you think that a captain should contribute offensively or not, if he doesn't, he's probably going to get criticized by the rest of his team and almost certainly the fans. So I would agree with that. Yeah, put up some points at least. Number 4, be the voice of the players, both on the ice and in the dressing room. So that goes back to another comment too, which I agree with. So good comment here, Bill. Flightless X Lion says, works hard, plays a complete game, smart player, doesn't make any mistakes with the puck. Everybody makes mistakes, every player does, but captains should make the least amount of mistakes. So good point there. Can be relied on. Is good with the fans. Absolutely. The captain, he is the face of the team the majority of places, whether it's in an interview or on like marketing, like posters or social media posts or whatever. He's the face of the team, so he's got to be good with the fans for sure. Contributes to the community. Absolutely. Your captain needs to lead by example off the ice, in my opinion. He's got to be at the charities. He's got to be meeting fans. He's got to be probably donating some money to some charity or raising an event or something like that. He's got to be that guy, right? So, good comment there. Is approachable. Absolutely. I love that you put that in there. Is approachable. Do you want to be a player on a team and you have this captain who is a bit of a butthole? And do you really want to go to that captain who's the butthole and try to explain your problem or get his feedback on something if he's a butthole and he's a butthole to you and he's going to do butthole things to you? That sounded weird. Cut that part out. But you don't want him to be rude. You don't want to have to deal with a captain who maybe doesn't respect you, or maybe regardless of what you think, just cuts your idea in half or doesn't respect your feedback or your feelings and stuff. Hockey's a tough game. There's not a lot of feelings in hockey, but still, when a player comes to you with an issue, you should, as a captain, you should listen. You need to be approachable. Absolutely. I'm really glad that someone put that in there. And lastly, is proud to play for the crest that is on his jersey. Absolutely. Regardless of the team that you're on, if you're the captain, you got to be proud to play for that team. Sean Wheat said, being American makes a good captain. The NHL is American. Pavelski was a good captain of the Sharks. I'm not sure if I understand this comment, but from what I see, I disagree completely. I don't understand what American has to do with being a good captain. I don't think it has anything to do with nationality. We've had amazing Swedish captains. We've had amazing Canadian captains, American captains, Finnish captains, Saku Koivu, Russian captains. Like, it doesn't really matter about nationality. So I'm not sure why Sean made it about nationality here, but I disagree with this. But I'm glad that he had the balls to put this, because if this is actually how he feels, he wrote that comment and that's what he meant. But if he didn't mean that, Sean, you might want to go back in your comment and reword it a little bit. But thanks for commenting. The STK84 says, a good captain is someone who leads by an example on and off the ice. Points in my mind are not as important as presence. Koivu, heck yeah, is a good example of a captain that is not a point machine, but is a presence. Absolutely. Well said, and I'm glad that someone mentioned Koivu. Morty said, reading the comments, I found myself disagreeing with a lot of people. A good captain doesn't have to be communicative because they lead by actions. They don't have to be positive because positivity doesn't win games. They don't have to be good people because even the best leaders in all of history have dark pasts. A good captain just needs to know where they're going and then determine how to get there. That's kind of the old school mentality. No emotion, no positivity. You work hard. You don't take anything from anyone, and it doesn't matter if you're communicative or not. You've got the C on your chest. People need to respect you, regardless of what comes out of your mouth. So it's a bit of an old school mentality. I don't necessarily agree with most of what is said here, but good comment nevertheless, and there is some valid points in here for sure. SaraB says, the captain should be the heart of the team, the player who you think of when you hear the team, because the whole team revolves around them. For example, McDavid is the heart of the team. Even though I don't think points necessarily make a good captain, McDavid is the core of that team and things would fall apart without him. Sarah, you're not wrong. If McDavid wasn't on that team, things would fall apart. I tend to agree that you kind of want the captain to be the face of the team, but not always. If you look back, I'm just going to use Montreal because that's the team I'm most familiar with. If you look back when Pacioretty was named captain of the Canadiens, was he the face of the franchise? Yes and no. Carey Price was the face of the franchise, but you're not going to give the goalie the C, so you give it to Pacioretty. I would argue that Max Pacioretty was one of the worst captains in Montreal Canadiens history and probably in the league during his captaincy. I wouldn't say he was the worst captain of all time in the NHL, but during his captaincy, he was one of the worst. So I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying here. He definitely should be the face of the team and a very popular figure. And that kind of goes back to a previous comment as well. Official channel of Pavel Barber says, a good captain is someone who makes himself accountable. Absolutely. Good word to use there. And others for their actions. A captain should be the hardest worker because the leader or the captain cannot ask for other players to put in more work or effort than themselves. Absolutely. It's all about leading by example. You can't ask someone to do more if you can't even do what you're asking them of. That was poorly worded, but you understand what I meant. He wrote it better than I just said it. A captain needs to be a warrior, not a worrier. Very well said. Which means that he'll do whatever it takes to win and not care about the refs or outside variables that some players will let affect them. And I think that's kind of what happened to Pacioretty. Not to pedal backwards here, but I think Pacioretty kind of got in his own head. There's a lot of media attention in Montreal, and a good captain needs to kind of zone that out a little bit. One guy that comes to mind is Mike Useroni. I'm not familiar with that name. It looks familiar though. I feel like maybe he was the captain of a USA team or something. It looks very familiar. I can almost see his face, but I don't know how to pronounce his name. The guy cared so much about his team and worked his butt off every single shift. He was the strongest. He was the strongest or the biggest, even the fastest. Maybe it meant to say he was not the strongest or the biggest or the fastest, but he led his team and did whatever it took. Heck yeah. And the last comment, Erik Peters says, when I think of a good captain, I have to immediately remind myself of Steve Yzerman, not only for his opinions, contributions, but for his off-ice actions as well. Just think back to the 97, the limo accident, and leadership he showed during that season. The Red Wings reminded us people that are more important things than hockey. Looking back at the 98 Stanley Cup was the sweetest of the 4 victories for me just because of what drove the team to get there. Inspiration comes in many different forms. CVY will always be remembered as, in my opinion, the greatest captain in the history of hockey, and that's not just because I'm from Michigan. Well said, Eric. Although I will say some periods in that massive run-on sentence would have been a little easier to read, no offense. But yes, what you say is completely right. Stevie Y was one of the most incredible captains of all time. I remember that incident back in the day. That was a moment in hockey that really changed a lot off the ice. Not as far as like rules or anything, but it's kind of like what happened in Vegas, the shootings in Vegas. The whole league just kind of, they took a step back. They let the game of hockey come second, if you will. That accident was so, I don't want to say newsworthy, but it was newsworthy, but it was so front and center over the success of any hockey team that it changed a lot of perspectives about how seriously people take hockey. And CVY was great during that time, as well as many other players on the Red Wings. That was an incredibly emotional couple of years for the Red Wings. So really good comment, Eric. Thanks for commenting. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for commenting. You guys are awesome. I read all the comments. I had a really great time reading through them all. And I wish I could put them all in the video. And I would say that basically every single comment. There was one that I was like, okay, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with the question that I asked. But all the rest of them were really great. I enjoyed reading through them. So thank you so much for leaving them. And I have a new question for you. So next Friday, a week from today, I'm going to be reading your answers to this question. So we talked about something kind of positive here. What makes a good captain? So I kind of want to go the other way with the next one, something negative. And I'm not sure how this is going to work. There should be a lot of different answers, hopefully. If it's all one person, then this is going to be a problem. But I want you to tell me who the worst player in the NHL is currently and why. So I don't know if you think it's Connor McDavid. If you think Connor McDavid is the worst player in the NHL, tell me. I don't care what name you pick. It doesn't matter to me. They don't necessarily have to be a typical bad player. I just want to know which NHL player do you think is the worst player in the NHL and why. I think we should get some pretty interesting and maybe comical answers to this one. So if you don't normally comment on videos, I just ask that you take a couple of minutes, think about it, and maybe comment on this video because your feedback is awesome. Your answers are awesome. I love interacting with you guys, and I can't wait to read your answers to this question on next week's Fan Friday. So thank you at home, you the fan. I really appreciate you guys. Hit the subscribe button down below. And if you think any of your friends would enjoy this video or this series, definitely share it with them. That would really mean a lot to me. Hit the like button down below too. And otherwise, have a good day, and I will see you later. Adios.